Good afternoon and welcome. So my name's Debbie Green Miller and I produce the Rancho Mirage Writers Festival. Yay! First things first, what do I want you to do? I have you so well trained. That's fabulous. So please turn off your cell phones even though you think it's on. We want to thank Jamie Kabler, our founder, who is home today watching on the live stream. So can everyone say, hi, Jamie? We also want to thank our city council. We couldn't do these writers series or this festival in our gorgeous library without the full support of the city of Rancho Mirage. Representing them today are about to be installed Mayor Lynn Mulatto, our outgoing mayor rotating back to City Councilman Steve Downs, and our City Councilman Michael O'Keefe. Thank you guys for always being here and always supporting us. The staff at the Rancho Mirage Library is the best. This year, the library is celebrating its 30-year anniversary. So this building and all the upgrades have all taken place in the last 30 years. So congratulations to the library and all the staff who make it such a fabulous place. We always like to thank our underwriter for the Writers Series events, Jordan Schnitzer. He's the one that does the funding that allows us all to have all these wonderful books all year long. So thank you to Jordan. And of course, in the first couple rows today are our angels. They fund 90% of the Writers Festival. So without the angels, we wouldn't have a festival. Follett Books is always in the back of the building, the back of the room, to help us with sales if you want to buy extra copies of the book for friends. And there'll be a signing like always, so after the presentation, please line up on this wall. December 9th, we've got another Writers Series event. We have Molly Jung Fast talking about her memoir on her mom, Erica Jung. So that should be great. That's the 9th of December. And on the 16th of December, we have Brandon McDuff, who is he is an environmentalist, and he's also a hunter and why can't I say that word today? Conservationist. Now, how conservationism, environmentalism, and hunting all go together, I'm not sure, so we'll just have to listen to him talk on December the 16th. Today, I'm really honored to introduce our wonderful speaker, Paula Saunders. Paula's not just a talented author. She has a real gift for storytelling that pulls you right into her world. Her latest book, Starting From Here, which you have on your lap, takes us on a journey of self-discovery, family dynamics, and the resilience it takes to start fresh. She's a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh and the Iowa Writers Workshop. She's also the author of The Distance Home, which really showcased her knack for exploring deep emotions and complex characters. Today, Paula will be joined in conversation by everyone's favorite cardiologist, Dr. Koi Lei, who many of you might remember interviewed Paula's husband, George Saunders, who's here today. They spoke during the 2020 Writers Festival, and if you missed their conversation, you can go online to YouTube and see it now. Both George and his wife Paula share a love for literature and clearly support each other's creative journeys. So let's give a warm welcome to Paula Saunders as she shares insights from starting here and engages in this exciting conversation with Dr. Koi Lei. Don't be shy, one of you come on.
It feels unchivalrous to go first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Thanks for coming out, everybody. It's so nice I can't imagine doing these things on Zoom. It would just not be nearly as much fun. And thank you for coming here, Paula.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Koi.
We're going to cut right to the chase.
Okay.
What is starting from here about? Maybe just give people a brief synopsis.
Okay, starting from here is a story of a young girl who leaves home early. She's from South Dakota. She's from an agricultural family. But she has a dream of becoming a professional ballet dancer, a classical ballet dancer. So this dream is kind of out of left field for that community. So starting from here is her starting from her deficit of her background. So she moves away at 15 on her own to study dance. And she goes to a number of different towns, and along the way she encounters a number of different obstacles that she has to get through, all on her own. So it's kind of about growing up. It's about finding the strength in yourself to try to pursue your dreams. And it's about overcoming the things in the culture that kind of come at you as obstacles. So she finds a way.
Paula, you've been very frank about the autobiographical threads in both The Distance Home and Starting From Here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, it's totally, all of my work is really autobiographical. It's really based on experiences that I've had. And that is just what I'm interested in. I'm interested in kind of delving into the experiences I have and trying to kind of figure out what they might mean for me. I heard a quote recently that I really, really loved. It was from a medicine woman she was a priest in the Cheyenne tradition. And she was telling a story about being in a group of elders, going into a room, and one of the elders said to her, if you can't take what you've experienced in life and incorporate it into your life, you're being a dilettante. I just thought that was such a powerful word, dilettante, and such a powerful expression. And it kind of felt to me like, yeah, that is what I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to use my life to transform myself and my own experience. So for me, writing is not just writing, it's more almost a spiritual practice or some kind of practice that I do to understand myself and others.
It brings to mind a quote from Graham Greene about writing being therapy. And he said you couldn't imagine people who don't write and compose or paint actually being able to deal with the pain and the fear. That's all part of the human condition.
Yeah, but for me, I think I would say that writing, there is that aspect of it. You kind of have a certain avenue to escape a little bit the kind of pain that you're experiencing in your own life. But the other aspect of it for me is that it really helps me in ways that actual therapy hasn't been able to help me in understanding or in growing compassion for other people.
Yeah.
It really has helped me because I did have a lot of kind of traumatic experiences when I was younger. In this book, there's the 15-year-old girl I lived with when I was 15, and she was pretty mad that I was there. And I always thought, what a jerk she was. And like after writing this book, I'm like, wait a minute. She was 15, and her parents said, oh my gosh, there's going to be another 15-year-old girl here. She's going to be in your school. She's going to be in your dance class. She's going to share your bedroom. She's going to use your bathroom. She's going to have dinner with us every night. And I thought, how horrible that would be, how difficult that would be. So that was really the first time, and that was a long time ago because I'm older now, and I was 15 then, so it took me a while. But that was a long time for me to kind of, I get the message. That was difficult for her. She wasn't a mean girl. She was just in a really difficult situation. So writing helps me to get to those kind of places.
Paul, both the distance home and starting from here, was there a time when you conceived this project then as a memoir rather than as a novel? You know, both on the covers of both, you say a novel. It's But you're very open about it. It's not really just a novel.
Well, I think it is a novel, actually. I think it is a novel, but I think it's a novel based on my life. But it is shaped like a novel. I think it reads like a novel. I'm trained in fiction writing. I'm really not trained to be a memoirist. I really don't even know what the elements of memoir might be or what I might need to do. And I feel like I don't quite trust my memory well enough to say, this actually happened to me. These are kind of the stories that you'll read in both books. Those are kinds of the experiences or the structures that I carry around with me. And I see them as my memory. Whether they happened like I say they happened, I really can't be so sure.
So it gives you a little distance to write about Renee, and a sense of objectivity then about it, or
yeah, absolutely. And I really needed that. When I first wrote the first book, when I wrote The Distance Home, I wrote it in the first person. So I tried to write it as a novel in the first person. And
when you first tackled the project?
When I first started that, and I sent it to my mentor, who was Toni Morrison at the time, and she said, well, I can get a feeling for all of the characters, every one of them, except the main character. She said, I don't know what she's about. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she's feeling. I don't know why she's making the decisions she's making. And I think at that point, I kind of realized that it took me a while. I read the email and I was like, oh, crap, that's not working. But it took me a while. And then I thought, okay, I'll try again. And it was a month or so later when I just kind of write, okay, experiment 1. Let's just try this in the third person.
Yeah.
And the third person, that objectivity or that distance, really helped me to penetrate. Because in the same way that I talked about compassion for other people in the book, by using the third person, I found some compassion for myself. Suddenly it wasn't like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, I'm to blame for this. It was more like, oh, look at what this young girl is going through.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Could you maybe just let people know about the family situation that Renee is coming from?
Okay, let's see. She has a lot of turmoil in her family. Her mother and father are constantly arguing, and she has an older brother who started out as a dancer as well. They started together. Actually, he started first, and she kind of followed him into it. So they started dancing, and they danced together, and they were both beautiful dancers and both very, very talented. And but the father, who was a cattleman, actually a cattle broker in South Dakota, because of the macho culture of that area, was very distraught that his son was becoming a ballet dancer. So the son, who's Leon in the book, really suffered a lot with his father's, kind of aggression. And so he stopped dancing, and also it wasn't just his father's aggression, it was the whole community, even teachers were calling him names. And that's true of my brother. Even teachers were calling him twinkle toes and things like that. It was unbelievable. So he stopped dancing, and through a number of different events that happened in the first book, he started drinking with his friends. And so he became an alcoholic and drug addicted. And then Renee, who's me in the book, left home, and the little sister stays at home.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the situation. It's a difficult situation because there's such a dichotomy between what happened to one child and what happened to the other. And one way to look at it is, the young woman was praised for her abilities, and the young man was denigrated and not seen or seen in a negative light.
Let's have you read just like the very first start, because I think it lays it out, and also give people a flavor for your
Sure.
lovely writing.
Okay, this is the first chapter.
You're not going to read the whole first chapter.
I am going to read the whole first chapter. I am. Oh, I'm not. I
think
you're
just
right.
up there, yeah.
You're right. I'll read as long as you want me to. You'll have trouble getting me off the stage.
You've got a plane to catch, remember?
So anyway, she's first moved away to Phoenix, or she's just moving away to Phoenix. The section's called All the Right Reasons. Though Al objected to the idea of his son traipsing around in a tutu, Eve enrolled Leon in a local dancing class, figuring that since Leon was always tripping on the playground and running into things, ending up with stitches, concentrating on where his body was in relation to what was around him would be good for him. Of course, Renee wanted to do everything her older brother did, but she was too young for school, too young for dance class, so she'd skip and hop, twirling around the living room as Bobby and Sissy polkaed through the champagne bubbles on the Lawrence Welk show, Al's favorite, making Al chuckle and Eve stop whatever she was doing to laugh along. Always hogging the spotlight, Eve would say, shaking her head as Leon let the screen door slam behind him and took off on his bike to meet up with the neighbor kids. Years later, after Leon and Renee had been studying together night after night at what may have been the world's most unlikely ballet school, the only one for more than 300 miles on the great unbroken plains of South Dakota, Renee was in pas de deux class, turning, whirling through multiple pirouettes on point under the power of her brother's hands. Leon was tall and strong with dark wavy hair and deep brown eyes, and he knew just how to keep her on balance, an unspoken, unerring bond linking their weight and movement one to the other. And as she spun through rotations she never could have managed on her own, the world was reduced to a single point of light, everything quiet. Then glissade and lift, and she was flying. From there, straight into piqué arabesques and tour jeté, Leon effortlessly setting her up onto his shoulder. And after a mere blink of suspension, she was diving headlong, nose to the ground, Leon catching her at just the right moment, placing her directly onto her point for a single beat of sublime, trembling balance. Was there anything else like it on earth? There was not.
That's lovely. It just sets everything up. So, the relationship of Leon and Renee to the family, their bond, and how beautiful, and your passion for dancing.
Yes.
So, Renee's decision to leave home, there's this difficult family. So what were the main motivations? And did it come from the parents saying, you need to get out of here? Or was it Renee saying, I need to get out of here? Or was it all of that?
I think it was Renee saying, I've got to get out of here. I think that she kind of understood something about her family, and that was that if she didn't get away from them, she wasn't ever going to be able to achieve the kinds of things she wanted to achieve, or achieve the kind of life she wanted to live. So it wasn't really about achieving something in particular, but about living a life that was maybe what she required most of all was a little bit of peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just she needed to get away from them to understand herself because they didn't understand her. They weren't available for that. So it was a big move.
And you mentioned that, writing it as a novel rather than as a memoir, you could really be true to your memories of that time and not have to worry about, you got the facts right.
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah.
And so you didn't rely on writings from that time, like journals or letters, anything like that?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm not very good at saving things. I'm not very good at saving things, but I did have journals from that time, but I'd lost them a long time ago. But actually this material has been my material throughout my writing life. So I've been writing since I was, at least, in college and graduate school. So in my mid to later 20s. And the one thing I didn't want with this project was any of the material that I'd done before I sat down to actually work on it again.
Oh.
Because there were 20 years between the time that I was actually working as a writer,
Yeah.
studying with Tobias Wolff and Toni Morrison and all these wonderful people who I had the privilege of studying with. And then, kind of tried to make this writing thing work. It really wasn't working for me. And I had kids at home. And so I kind of thought, okay, this just isn't for me. I'm going to focus on my family. And then the kids grew up and went away, which is funny because it was one of the things Toni Morrison told me one time when we ran into each other. She said, "Are you writing?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Don't worry, you'll write when the kids leave home." And I was like, "No, I'm not gonna." But she was right. They left home, and I'm like, I want to try this again. And kind of through that time of building a family and building those relationships and understanding them maybe a little better, I could go back to this work in a different way. So I didn't want to see anything old. It really needed to be now.
Renee's journey, I mean, those must have been such difficult years for you. So, we think about children leaving home, going to like schools for the gifted or going to boarding school or, these very carefully vetted situations. But I don't get the sense that this was the case for Renee.
No, it wasn't. And one of the things that I've learned later in life as a grown-up is that when people do this, when they have a very gifted child, like you said, there's something set up for them.
Yeah.
Either they go into some kind of program that's geared for them and made for them, or a parent goes with them, or the family even goes with them sometimes. Mm-hmm. But in my case, we didn't have the education. My family didn't have the education to do that. We didn't have the resources to know people who did that kind of thing. We were really very alone and trying to figure it out on our own. And I think my parents did, whatever they could, which kind of just meant throwing me out of the nest, So,
yeah.
And I'm really grateful for them, but it was really hard. Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of coming of age story generally has themes of discovery of identity. Development of grit or self-reliance. Were there silver linings for you, do you think, from that? I mean, some of it, frankly, is very hard to read because you really worry about Renee. But then I got the spoiler because I know Paula turns out okay. So it took a little bit of the stress out of reading it. Life's pretty good now, so she's going to be okay. But still, it's hard. We have. Yeah. Susan, I have 3 daughters. I can't imagine having them go through some of these experiences. You have Caitlin, Alina.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, some of the experiences when she's older. She's going through adolescence. So when she's older and she's curious about, intimacy and sex and how everything works. So she has that great curiosity. But I have to tell you, I have a feeling that this is more widespread than people talk about, this idea of that being a very difficult, rocky time where women are very, very vulnerable. I know my mother, when she was, when we were young, she would tell us about coming home from school and that she was Catholic and there was you couldn't go to see any of the X-rated movies that came to town because she was Catholic. She said, but the priest would stop her and tell her the plots of all of the X-rated movies. So she was probably 15, right in that age. And so there's this young girl and there's this older priest and he wants to tell her all of this sexual stuff. Okay, so that's my mother. And then with me, of course, there are the experiences in the book. But also I was thinking the other day, I had this experience where when I was about 13, a girlfriend and I went to the drugstore and we bought a smutty novel. We thought, we're having a sleepover, we're gonna read this. What's going on here? And so we brought it home and the dad found it and he's like, you can't read this, this is a terrible thing to read. Take it away from you. But then later that evening, he called us both out and we sat at his feet while he read us the dirtiest parts of it. I mean, right? It's amazing that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's all these experiences, and I think these experiences aren't necessarily uncommon for young women. And I'll also tell you one with my daughter. She was 14, she got her first job. She was very excited. She was waitressing or hostessing at a little cafe. And so she's working. She works about 2 days. She's so proud of herself. And she comes back the third day and she says, I quit. And we're like, what? Why? Why are you quitting? Da, da, da. She wouldn't tell us. She didn't tell us. But the man who ran the restaurant, who owned the restaurant, had come up to her and put his hand on her breast. Just like that. We found out a year later. Why? Because she was ashamed to tell us. So these kinds of experiences that women experience, where does the shame fall? That's really, for me, one of the big questions of this book. Where does the shame fall? It falls on the women who experience the predation. And so I would like that to change. Yeah.
That is always a question when you read a novel and the protagonist is a young person, whether it's Harry Potter or Jane Eyre, or that, who keeps this person safe?
Right.
And that's always a question you have to answer when the protagonist is a young person. Where's the safety come from?
Right.
This was hard. It is not a lot, and so Renee is her own, but you're so, I think you do such a good job of this very tight line that you negotiate between Renee being in these dangerous situations with really, frankly, predators or people who sense her naivete and her vulnerability and seek to take advantage. But yet Renee is never without agency.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah. And that's really also one of the big points of the book, is that, we all have, seen our own resilience. We have this resilience that we can rely on, this inner strength. And so that is a big part of the book. And I think you see that even in the second chapter. It's almost, when I read the second chapter, I almost feel like it outlines the whole book, because this young girl, Renee, has gone away. Yeah. So she has this disorientation. She doesn't know where she is. She's like, where am I? What is that? What's that road? What's this? Yeah. Where's that? Where does this go? So she's disoriented. There's a man at the house who kind of focuses in on her and kind of leers at her in a way that he would never do with his own daughter, of course, so he's leering at her. She notices it. That starts the whole book, and that's the pattern. But the other thing that happens in that chapter is the mother makes an excuse for the man. Mm-hmm. So I find that really true to life. And, I'm sorry, it's hard to read.
Well, just because you make us care about the Renee.
I just mean, I hear it a lot that it's hard to read. I hear it a lot. So, it is hard to read, and it's hard to experience it. And many of us have experienced that. But it's the women making excuse for the men that is really a tricky kind of thing to look at. It intrigues me. Yeah.
So Renee has these experiences, but she also, you show that when she makes mistakes, that she does learn from that and grows from these. There's a line that one of my mentors when I was a young resident in the hospital told me. He said, "Coy, good judgment comes from experience." Mm-hmm. And he says, experience comes from bad judgment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't know what you're telling me, but I feel better. No. I guess.
No, that's exactly true, because she'll make a bad decision and then she experiences it, then she learns, then she makes another bad decision, then she learns not to go quite that way. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of that.
Yeah.
It's true.
And I also feel when you read this book, maybe it's universal, maybe it's some of it, but we all probably have experiences in our life that were bad or frankly horrible, and you would never want your children to go through them.
Right.
But on the other hand, who I feel like I am today, as a husband or a father or doctor, it's a little bit better because of those experiences. Yeah, on the other hand, right, there's this paradox of things that we would wish we could have avoided, but somehow, if we use it the right way, it enhances. It's, so we are because of and not despite of, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's really true. Yeah.
Do you feel that?
I really feel that. When my mother, when I was older, grown up, my mother used to say to me, "Oh, I should have never let you go away. I should have never sent you away. I should have never let you go away." And I always was just like, no, that's not the way it is. It's complicated. And, we both have kind of feelings of mourning about it. Yeah. But on the other hand, I am who I am today, and I have the qualities I have today because of those experiences and having to struggle through that. And I totally agree with that.
When you wrote this and you're writing about Renee now, did you have a sense that sometimes that you were like having a conversation with this person that in a way she didn't have someone to lean on but could you reach back through time and kind of be a mentor to her now or forgive her or?
I really do feel like that's the case, and I know it sounds a little bit wacky, but I feel like through writing this book, I have reached back through time, and I'm able to hold her hand through all of these experiences she's going through. So, and I feel like we don't know how everything works, how time works, and how we experience life in one way, but we don't know how it really is. So, possibly that me doing this work now is actually helpful to her then. We don't know, maybe. Yeah, I like that idea. But.
And the other person it must have been an act of forgiveness, is Eve, the mother. That's such a complicated relationship in this book.
Yeah, it's such a complicated relationship. It really is a complicated relationship, and it's one that I wouldn't pretend to have gotten to the bottom of. But I do think that in this book, I saw things in her, in the writing of it, that I hadn't seen before. I saw her struggles in a way that I hadn't seen her struggles before. There's a section in the book where the son has just been on a drunk, and he comes home, and he's been laying on the couch for 3 days, and she's been giving him soup and grilled cheese sandwiches and stuff like that. The dad's mad, he's left. And so then the son gets up and he's like, "Okay, I'm leaving." And Eve, the mother, says, "Don't leave, just stay here. We're going to take care of this, And he's like, "No, my friend's picking me up." So a drug buddy comes, picks him up. And she can't stop him. And he leaves and the screen door slams. And that was kind of the end of that section for me for a long time, because I'm a huge rewriter, so I rewrite and rewrite. And one day I was going through it, and I saw Eve come back in the house after the screen door slammed, kind of slump down on the steps, put her head in her hand, and say, "I think I'm going to be sick." And I was like, yes. And it just struck me so hard, because suddenly I understood my mother's dilemma in a way that I never really had before. She was in her 40s, maybe, and she had this terrible, terrible problem. Yeah. So, It really gave me an insight into her that I had.
That visceral pain that a parent feels.
Yeah, a visceral pain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Eve is, her own story is very tragic, because, when you presented her as such a star in all this potential, right? And she was the star of her high school musical, and she graduated as the valedictorian of her high school. That's... but she never even gets to go to college.
No. And these are all, this is also a book about class, isn't it? I mean, For me it is, because I think, when Renee finally gets to go to Phoenix and sees these other dancers who she's supposedly competing with, they've been training, and they come from families that can afford it. They live in a place where it's available, and they have been training for all the years that she's been trying to get a foothold. So she sees the difference there, and it's the same thing with Eve. And Al, even the parents, neither of them have gone to college. They're, agricultural family workers. And
even when she was dreaming, her dream was to maybe go to college and become a secretary.
Yes.
Yes. And now you have someone who's the star of a high school musical and valedictorian, and you hope that they want more than to be a secretary.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned that Renee going and just seeing this other kind of different race of, and you have a lovely paragraph about that, so I just brought that to
Sure.
over there, right? Well, you know where it is.
Do you want me to start here?
Oh, no, I was thinking about that, right? Over here with this part.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is when she goes to Phoenix, and these girls that I was just talking about, she sees how different they are from her. Most remarkably, the girls were stick-thin and sculpted, with sharp angles, honed edges, unmistakable outlines. They were like line drawings, slight single arcs of hip bones, cheekbones, ribs. And Renee understood that she was too soft and diffuse, her slender body too loose, her perimeter too amorphous and undefined. If she was ever going to join them, or even make them see that she was standing there, the first thing she needed to do was close the gap, starting with her own flesh. She was going to have to remake herself to match them, become delineated from every angle like an anatomical model. Standing next to these other girls in her ballet class, with the marked exception of Gally, obviously the bull in the china shop, she saw that she was going to have to make herself indistinguishable from them, like a paper doll in a chain. That's great.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you. So as you wrote this, you with your rewriting, you would see more or feel more and develop more empathy. It sounds like for Eve. And
yeah. Well, for me, rewriting is like kind of a complete activity. You know, I'm looking at the language, I'm looking at the tone, I'm looking at the movement, and I'm looking at the character, and I'm looking at the plot. So I'm always like rewriting, almost just kind of, like spreading it apart, taking it open, looking at it again, rebuilding it. So I'm looking at all of those different elements at the same time. So yeah, that definitely.
But it sounds like not just from a technical point of view, but also content and the tone.
Yes.
And the empathetic heart of it as well.
Yeah, for me, it's more like painting than writing. I'm not a technical writer. You know, I kind of like, I look at it like, hopefully, this is the goal, a living thing. You know, you look at it as something that's alive and you're working with it and like that.
Well, your mother passed before the first book was published.
Oh, yeah.
So she never got a chance to read about Eve.
Yeah, and that was a little bit by design. I think I started working on it when she was very ill. And so, we knew that day was coming. And that gave me a freedom to kind of explore who she was, for me, not who she was entirely, obviously, but who she was in my life, a little more deeply and a little more honestly, because I didn't have to worry about her reading it. I think I never would have written any of these books to hurt anybody's feelings. That wasn't ever my goal, but to explore my own experience. And I feel like, even though my experience includes other people, I have a right to that.
It's, when you kind of look beyond just the story and you see the circumstance, I think we talk about like income inequality and we talk about these things in a very abstract way sometimes, but the power of fiction is that you see, like Renee has these incredible limitations, but just from her circumstances that, that someone from a poorer childhood who is in Rapid City, South Dakota, to dream to become a ballerina in New York. There's a lot of obstacles there that are almost insurmountable.
There are.
And
it's really true. And, I went back to Rapid City recently.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this book tour thing I've been doing, I was back in Rapid City. And I had this overwhelming feeling like, how did I ever get out of here?
Yeah. It's sticky.
How did I? Because you can look at it and you can see it's impossible. Like, it's very, very difficult. So I really have to credit my parents. I mean, both of them. Both of them kind of came up with it in terms of the money to send me away and to have me be away and the willingness to let me go away.
Yeah, but it's unusual. And
very,
you all paid such a price. And
true.
I think there's the gap is that now you learn, you say, well, even Al in many ways, they did the best they could. I mean, there was maybe neglect, you can say, or they put their daughter in dangerous situations. But they did the best they could do, but yet the best they could do wasn't enough. And there's this gap, right? And that's where there's so much pain. Is on one hand, people do the best, and the best isn't enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then we can only do what we can do, you know. We can only do what we can do. And I think, too, for them, to think of them having the imagination. I mean, my father was a son of a cattle trader. Yeah. My father became a cattle trader. You know, that was where we were, you know. It was home and brokering cattle. I don't even know what that means.
So Paula, how did you pivot? Maybe I should say pirouette, but how did you pivot from being a ballerina to a writer?
Oh, okay. Let's see. How did that happen? Well, when I was dancing, I didn't really go to high school. I kind of took like really silly classes. I took like family planning, and I took like film. I just took silly sewing. I remember that. So I was taking classes so I could be in the studio more, and I wouldn't have any work.
Yeah.
So when I stopped dancing after that, then I really didn't know what to do with myself. And I had a boyfriend who said to me, not a boyfriend I have very fond memories of, but to his credit, to his credit, he said, "You're smart. You should go to college." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll try it."
How old were you at that time?
21 or something.
Okay.
So I started at community college because I didn't know what to expect, and literally fell in love with school. Fell in love with being at school. I loved it. And then I transferred to a university, and the university in that same community, and I had to sign up for a literature class. That was a requirement. So I was like, oh God. So I signed up for this literature class and fell in love with literature. I remember very distinctly reading Mark Twain's Jumping Frog of Calaveras County and being just delighted by that, like in a whole body, just like, oh my God, this is the best. So fell in love with literature. And then I transferred up to Barnard when I was a junior. And the woman, it was the 80s, you know, so the woman who was interviewing me for admission asked me, she said, well, what are you going to major in? I said, well, I think I'll major in finance because I thought I would be a banker. And I don't know anything about money. So she's like, well, we don't have finance here. So I said, okay, English. I'll do English. So I graduated with an English degree from Barnard. Yeah. And at Barnard, I started taking writing classes, and I was literally the worst one in the whole roundtable group. Literally, I mean, the first story I handed in, the teacher held it up to the class and said, this is a verbatim, this is the perfect example of a waste of time. Yeah. So what she meant, and this is one of the benefits of having studied ballet for so long, was that what she meant was I was wasting time in my text. Do you know what I mean? I was saying like, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Where are you going? I'm not sure. You know, like this. I was wasting time on the page. That's what she meant. And so I understood, oh, she has some critique of this work. Now it's my job to figure out what that critique is. That kind of training came from my ballet training, where you always have to figure out what your deficit is based on what someone else reflects to you. So
and take criticism as a sign of attention, yes, which is, in a way, a sign of respect, right?
Yes, that's right. Or at least take criticism as a way to grow, and enrich your own practice, whatever you're doing. So that's how I changed to writing, and then I just I loved it. It wasn't easy from then, but I applied to Syracuse later on in my life, and I was actually teaching at Minnesota Dance Theater, and I was writing poems at the same time and writing short stories, and I applied to Syracuse and got in.
Yeah.
That was lucky. Yeah.
Well, life changes, but there must have been some, you know, on the surface you think, well, ballet, dance, classical dance, and literature being so different, but maybe there were skills and aspects of dance that translated to being a writer.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think maybe the rhythm of the prose for me is kind of, I really like that. I find it
Beauty
really
of the
musical.
Line,
Yeah, beautiful line. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of flow of the language. I like all of that stuff.
Like trying not to have unnecessary gestures and
Yes,
flourishes.
exactly.
Yeah.
And trying to make something difficult look easy. That's definitely ballet, and it's definitely writing. I've heard Toni Morrison say that you have to work really, really, really hard on it so that it looks really easy.
So after your 2 years at Syracuse, you were one of 3 people selected by Toni Morrison to work with her for a couple of years.
For 2 years, yeah.
What an honor that must have been.
It really was, yeah. It really was, and that was an incredible experience. That was such an enriching experience, and she was very, I just adored her so much, and she was very tough with me.
She seems like someone who didn't mince words.
Oh gosh! Oh my God! yeah. She would take you to task for sure, and but she was always very encouraging too. She liked my work, and I was just like, I of course adored her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very kind of moving to talk about her for me because she was such an important piece for my life, and so happened by such happenstance. Just kind of happened. I was teaching at Syracuse. I was teaching a summer session. I came out for a break. I was giving the students a break and saw this poster tacked up on the wall that said, Schweitzer Fellowship, apply here. I was like, I'm going to apply for that. And that was it. Yeah, I was very lucky.
You shared with me something that she said about your writing that I thought was wonderful, where she compared it to the Hudson.
Oh, yeah. She would say... She said one day we were working in her kitchen, which was right on the Hudson River. You could see the Hudson from her window. And she said, your work reminds me of the Hudson River. She said, I had a workman come out here who was doing something. And he said to me, yeah, you look out and the Hudson River is all smooth and quiet and nice. He said, but underneath, it's boiling. It's just like, so I liked it. I really liked that. That gives me some courage. Yeah.
But after Toni those years, you kind of life. You got caught up with life. You got married, whirlwind romance. Got married, had a couple kids.
Yeah.
Must have been hard to find the time for writing.
Yeah,
phase of life, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's really true. I think it was both hard to find the time for writing, but we were both really dedicated to writing. So I did have a babysitter who'd come in for half the day, and I'd kind of really try to write. I think I wasn't quite prepared to write what I needed to write, and like I said before, I'm not someone who just writes to write. I'm not interested in making things up so much. It just doesn't interest me. I'm interested in exploration. So I wasn't really prepared. I think I was a little too angry still. And, writing is a big part of my life, but having a family was also very, very important to me. After not having a family and not being part of a family for such a long time, what I wanted, I think, at that point in my life more than anything was to have my own family where it could be nice. Like that. That was kind of the idea. So, yeah, that was real important.
Georgia and Paula shockingly raised 2 writers.
Oh, yes, that's true.
I think I read somewhere that you were kind of that you had to step back from that while, but then you stumbled on an article about Elena Ferrante.
I did. And, and I read Elena Ferrante, actually. A woman who was friends of ours kind of found her and I recommended to her. I can't remember who. But it was just really a wonderful discovery for me because I could see in Elena Ferrante that you can write about very difficult situations. And it's okay. You can do it. It can be literature. And so, so that really gave me a lot of courage to at least try.
Mm-hmm. And Laura Ingalls Wilder. And Laura Ingalls Wilder as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. At that point, I was teaching a group of about 4 or 5 young girls, like 12, 13-year-old girls, and we were studying Little House on the Prairie. We were just going through it and reading it and having a great time. And one day I was coming home from my teaching, and I thought, you know what? And all sorts of crazy things happen in Little House on the Prairie, like really bad things. And I'm like, I can do that. I can write that. That's my part of the country, and I can do it. And so I thought that also really encouraged me. Yeah.
And now you've got, I mean, you've set these two up in sequence, but there's going to be another one, I understand.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm just starting to think about that, and I'm kind of finishing up with talking about this book, and it's coming at me, this mountain.
This continuation of Renee's story.
Yeah, continuation of Renee's story. I'm hoping to do it. It will be a very difficult book for me to write. It'll be a very difficult book for people to read. I don't know if anybody wants anything to do with it, but I think I would like to write it. So I'm going to give it a try. I don't know how. I don't know. It's in front of me like a mountain. Yeah.
You're kind of dreading getting.
Oh yeah.
Are you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I am. Yeah, I am.
But you worked on some parts, or you worked through some of that during the pandemic.
I did, because this book I wrote twice as long as this, so it contains the third book in it. But then I cut it in half because it was way too long, and the third book just wasn't working out. So I'd always planned it as a trilogy, so 3 books. But the last half of this book wasn't working out, so I cut it off, made this book, which I think was the plan from the beginning, and I like it this way. So now this third book is going to need a complete, I have pages on my desk like, this, but it's going to need a new vision. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because I think because it was a continuation of this book, it continued kind of the flavor of this book. And I think the flavor of it needs to change. I think that's what's going to make that third part successful, is if I can capture some kind of flavor in the text and in the working of it that will elevate it into itself. I think this as itself, this is working for me.
Yeah.
But the next one, as an attachment to this, doesn't work. It's not really an annexed book. It's got to be a standalone.
Because the first two are really quite different in the way they're told.
Yes, they are.
In the first one, you explore these different perspectives from family members.
And different times.
Yeah.
I go past and future. I go all over the place. In this one, I stick very strictly to a third-person, limited narrative voice. So
and very linear.
Very chronological. I really wanted to do that. And so for the next one, I'm kind of thinking, maybe I need to learn to write an omniscient voice. I need to come in with some kind of voice that has a little more power and a little more breadth than a third-person limited, which is what this current book is in. So I need to find a way into that material that's different than what I have.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see.
Why stop at 3?
What?
Why stop at 3?
Oh, yeah, why stop at 3? Because I'll probably be on to my next life by then. Who knows?
Yeah. When
Takes me a while.
You're very frank about this being your experiences. Were there experiences here that you've shared with your family before? Or when Caitlin and Alina, your daughters, opened this up, did they say, "Oh, Mom, I never knew you went through this"? Or
I think they must have that experience, yeah. My older daughter hasn't read it yet. She's like, I'm too afraid. My younger daughter has read it, and it was very emotional for her. But, these are the understandings that we have to share with each other.
And you have a sister who was Jane in the book, and she's read the books.
Yeah, she's read all of this, yes.
Yeah.
And I was really happy about that because she just kind of confirmed. I was like, did that really happen? She's like, oh yeah, that was like that. I remember that. So that's been a really nice, I don't use her along the way, but when it's over, she reads it, and it's nice to hear a confirmation from her. Yeah. Yeah.
You, you avoid her point of view a bit in the first one.
I do. And, that's kind of a little bit double-sided, and mainly because she was 10 years old when I left. So me and her getting to know each other has happened kind of sporadically as we grew up.
Yeah.
But then, she's your sister, so you always hold her so dear.
Yeah.
So it's nice. We're very close now, which is really nice.
Well,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
and spending
Chloe.
this time.
Thank you.
It was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paula's going to be signing in the back. Is that right?
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Chloe. That was so nice.
Oh,
Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
it was.
I'm going to take this. Oh, yes.
Thank you.